This is a training video for modeling an office building and the surrounding landscape and site and road and parking lot in SketchUp. So let's jump into it. The first thing we're going to do is we have these PDFs. We have a plan of the site, and then also we have elevations and plan of the building. So let's bring them into Photoshop. We open up Photoshop here and bring in the PDFs one at a time. And the normal resolution is 300 for print, but we don't want to print this. We want to put it into 3D. So the general rule for 3D that I've found over many decades of working in 3D is that you want your plans to be between 4,000 pixels and 6,000 pixels wide. That's the perfect resolution to get a clear image in 3D without overdoing it and getting it blurry one way or the other. Lower than 4,000 pixels wide will be blurry, and higher than 6,000 pixels wide will be blurry because there'll be too much. The software tries to filter it, and it gets out of control when it's more than 6,000 pixels wide, from my experience. So instead of 300 pixels per inch, we'll do 150 pixels per inch, which gives us perfect amount of resolution, and say OK. And when the image comes into Photoshop, the PDF, it'll be transparent. So we need to click on the layer options and say flatten image. Now we need to check the amount of inches of the resolution. So we're going to go to the image and then canvas size. And instead of pixels, we're going to change that to inches. And so we don't want these odd numbers. We want it to be a perfect 36 by 24. So we'll do 36 wide and 24 inches high and say OK. And the reason is when we bring it into 3D in SketchUp, we want to be able to scale it properly. So we can see here that it says 1/8 inch equals 1 foot. So that means that for every inch of the paper size, that will be 8 feet in SketchUp. And this is a United States project, architectural project, so we're going to be using inches and feet, not centimeters and meters. So that all US projects uses architectural inches and feet. So now we're ready to save this image as a JPEG. We'll do save as. We'll find our folder and save it as a JPEG. Say OK. I usually do a compression quality of 9. Not too high, not too low. Okay, that's the plan and elevations of the building. Now let's bring in the site. We'll do the same thing. Say OK. Flatten it. Adjust the canvas size. Changed it to inches. 36 by 24. Say OK. Now with this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and you can see it's on a little bit of an angle because it's pointing true north, so the building is a little bit on an angle, but for modeling purposes, I'd rather just straighten it out a little bit, and it's not going to change the sun angle that much in the 3D. When we go to render it, it'll just be just a few degrees off. So first, where this says background, I can't do image. If I want to try to do edit and then transform, it won't let me because it's the background. So I need to double click the background and say OK and turn it into a layer because it won't let me rotate the background. So now it's a layer. Now I can move and rotate it. So I'll go to Edit, Transform, so what I like to do is do free transform. So Edit, free transform. Then I can move it and rotate it and scale it. But all I'm going to do is really rotate it and just move my mouse to the edge of this image and rotate it a little bit and line it up so with the edge over here on the left side of the image there, so that it looks straight up and down with the building. That way when we go to model it, it'll be a lot easier. And the north will just be off just slightly, but I think that'll be okay. It's not that much. Hit enter. Now we're gonna save this image just like this. Actually, it's so small on the page. Let's reduce the size so that we don't have to all this white space just taking up pixels. So we'll go to image, canvas size, and then we'll go to inches, and then we'll do first we'll do half. So half of 24 is 12, half of 36 is 18. So, but then we need to click on this corner box right here so that it won't cut off our image, and say okay. So now it cropped that image. We did cut off a little bit of our image. We might not be able to do it quite to half. So let's do width. Let's do 20 width, and then height we'll do 15 and see what that looks like. Oops, I forgot to hit that little corner button. That little corner button's really important. So 20, 15, enter. Okay, that looks good. So now a little trick that we do is when we save this, well, first let's flatten the image again. File, save as JPEG. At the end of this, I'm gonna do /20 by 15 inches. That way I know when I bring it in, I can see the name. 20 by 15 inches will let me know how to scale it in SketchUp in 3D. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other image. So this one is /36 by 24 inches. So when I have that in the name, that will help me. I don't have to keep bringing it into Photoshop to see how many inches it is. I know exactly how many inches the paper is, so I can scale it properly. So this one is 1 inch equals 20 feet. So I know if it's 20 inches, I would do 20 times 20, and that will give me how many feet. So going into SketchUp now, I have to set my scale to United States architectural inches. So what I'll do is I'll go to Window, Model, Info, and then I go to Units, which is the last one, and Model Info. And right here, if anywhere else in the world but the United States, it will be in decimal, and you can do centimeters and meters, but most of the projects that come from me, so for this purpose, will be United States architectural. So you need to go click Format and then go to Architectural, and that will display in inches. Now in the rendering button of the model info, make sure you say use anti-alias textures. Okay, now one more thing, we need to make sure the resolution is proper, or else we won't be able to see our plans very good. So we'll go Model, Preferences, go to OpenGL, and make sure Use Maximum Texture Size is checked. Say okay. Otherwise, our images will be, for our plans, will be really blurry. Now let's go back into Windows Explorer and then we'll do our site first. So grab our site JPEG that we saved from Photoshop, drag it into SketchUp. So now this is an image. It's not 3D faces yet. It's just an image. We have to right click on it and say explode. Now we turn that image into a face with 4 lines around it. So the first thing I like to do is, there's a texture on both sides, but this underside should not have a texture, just the top side. So I'll open up the Materials tab, click on my default material, and paint the default material on the back side of that. Now, drawing in SketchUp is easier with X-ray mode turned on. So in I have these view toolbars, and showing this would be called styles. So make sure when you go into view toolbars and then go down to styles and check that, and that will bring up this bar right here, and I can click on the X-ray button. So now when I draw lines on this, I can easily see, especially when you're drawing lines over the lines in there in the image, you can still see them very easily. But when you turn X-ray mode off, you can't see the lines that you're drawing. So that's why I always draw, when I'm tracing plans in 3D, I'll keep the X-ray mode turned on. Okay. So let's use the eraser tool just to erase those lines. So we need to get this to the proper scale. That's the very first thing we need to do. So I'm going to select the whole thing and right click and say, because I'm just using the regular selection tool here, and this bar right here with all these tools, you might have it already, but toolbars, and you can turn on large tool set. That will turn that on. Select the whole thing, right click, say make group. Okay, so now that it's a group, I can double click. So now I double clicked on that, and you can see that dotted line around the group. So I'm inside the group. Now I can click on my tape measure tool. To get the tape measure tool, go to view toolbars and click on construction. That will bring up this bar right here. So now that I'm inside the group, click on tape measure tool and then click on one corner and then around across to the other corner. So I know that in Photoshop I made this 20 inches by 15 inches. So it's 20 inches wide, and 1 inch equals 20. So 20 inches times 20 feet. So 20 times 20 equals 400 feet. So I need to click on tape measure tool, click on one corner, click on the other corner, and make sure I'm doing the 20 feet, because it's 20 wide by 15 high. So click that. So now it's telling me what I'm measuring, what length it is, but I want to force it to be a certain length. So after I click those 2 clicks, I type 400 apostrophe, which is feet, and then enter. It says, do you want to resize the active group or component? Yes. So I just forced that to be exactly 400 feet wide, and I can use my tape measure tool again to check the measurement, and you can't see it because it's down in the corner and my face is covering up, but it says 400 feet. You just have to trust me. Okay, so now that we scaled this properly, I'm going to explode the group. So right click, explode. So now this is perfectly to scale, and to check it I can use my tape measure and I could see 34 feet. This should be 34 feet, and it is. You can't see it, but it is, trust me. So I want to get rid of these edge lines here. So I'm going to go to Styles and click on Edit, click on this modeling settings and then uncheck model axis and then update. So now it's just my plan for my site in 3D to the proper scale on US architectural inches and feet, and then on x-ray mode. So where my scene is, I go camera or view animation. I can add a scene or update scene. If I already have a scene, I can just right click on it and say update. That way if I get lost, and I can always just click that scene and go back to the main view. So my main view I want to be kind of like this, because I'm going to start drawing this site and just tracing the plan. So let's right click scene, update it at that. So if we're going around here making it, we can always go back and see the overall view. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is there's a trick to this. Now I'm gonna start tracing and trace all the roads. There's sidewalks here. There's some parking on this side. There's parking back here, and then there's the building footprint. There's some more parking here, and then there's a grass island here. Now, what I've found out that when I draw in 3D, if I draw islands and cut out footprints and everything into the parking, those are making holes in our site, in our 3D site. And then later on, when you go to do rendering and animation, those holes can cause problems. So what I do that gets rid of those problems later on, and you might not understand why, I don't understand either, it's just something to do with the 3D software, the way it renders. It can cause artifacts and flickering and stuff like that. So I use the pencil tool, and where I can see there's going to be a hole in our parking, in our asphalt, I'm going to draw a line straight through it that will cut right through our model, and I'm going to leave that line there the whole time through the whole project. And what that will do is that instead of having a hole inside of our asphalt, it'll be one face here, one face here. So there won't be any holes. You'll see later on as I go. So now it's very easy. We can just use the pencil tool, the arc tool, to just trace all the parking. So we're going to trace the outside of the roads and the parking. I'll hover my pencil tool over, hold shift to lock it, and then I can just start drawing with the pencil tool. So a straight line here up to there, and then I can use my arc tool, my 2-point arc, and I'll move my face here a little bit up so you can see this. I'll move it, and then right now it's by default there's 12 sides. So if I draw this arc right here, you can see it's only 12 faces, 12 sides to this arc, which is very chunky, and I don't want it to be chunky. I want it to be very smooth. So before I draw that, I'm going to click on the 2-point arc tool again, and I'm going to just type 40, enter. So now down here in the bottom right corner, you can see it says sides 40. So now when I draw it, it has 40 sides instead of 12, and so it's a lot more smooth. And that's such a big arc. I'm actually going to redo it, and I'm going to do it as 100. Now if this was a small curve, then you don't need that many, but it's such a big curve. In reality, this is like 15 feet long, and so this curve I want to be smooth. I don't want you to be able to see all the faces in the curve in 3D when it goes to render. So any straight lines can be done with the pencil tool. Hover, hold shift to lock it, and then just draw with the pencil tool here. Go back to my arc tool, and oops, I forgot. So I'll use the eraser tool. I'm supposed to draw on the outside. I have to be consistent. So if I'm gonna draw on the outside of the curb, I want to stay on the outside the whole time. And then I'll use the offset tool to make the curve. I'll show you how easy that is later. Just a little bit. So I'll draw this arc here, line up that line there, and then go back to the pencil tool for the straight lines. Okay, now this is another parking lot off to the side, so I'll leave that. I'll come over here, hold down shift, and then start drawing the rest of this parking here. So this arc is a lot smaller than this arc, so instead of 100, I'm going to do more like maybe 30 would be good for, because this is only about 8 feet, so 30 should be good to keep it looking smooth. So going back to the pencil tool, this is a little tricky here. I think I'm gonna go down to here, over. It's a little messy. The cat is a little bit messy, but this should be good enough for what we're doing for rendering. And then this arc is very subtle, so I'm gonna do 20 sides. It's not really drastic. I don't want to overdo the amount of sides on it. And that's a drainage opening. I'll probably ignore that. You won't notice that in the rendering. Okay, now I have another very big arc here, so I'm gonna probably do 80 sides. 80, enter. Go to here. Go back to the pencil tool, straight edge, and then I have a really big arc here. I'll maybe do 90 sides, enter, and just keep tracing all around the asphalt area. It's kind of like, you know, when you have a coloring book when you're a kid and you want to trace around a different drawing and make your own drawing. You have a tracing paper. That was always fun. And then you get to color it in. That's exactly what we're doing, except we're doing it in Sketchup. So we've traced around the outside of the entire asphalt. So the parking here, and the road, it's all connected. It's all asphalt. Now there's going to be a sidewalk here, and I'm going to start drawing that. With a pencil tool, and then arc tool, and then I'll probably do 30 sides because that's a smaller arc. And then this is a little bit bigger arc, so I'll do 60 sides. And I'll leave it at 60 sides for this arc. Go back to arc, type in 30 sides for the smaller curve, and then finish it with a pencil tool. Now I want to make sure these line up perfectly, so I'm going to draw it straight. As you can see, I did it locking to that yellow and I hold down shift to lock it. I want it to be straight, but then I can grab this with the selection tool, use the move tool, and just move this line over to line up with that line perfectly. So now you can see instead of cutting a hole in our 3D, which can cause rendering problems later, we have two faces here, two faces here, two faces here, and that keeps everything a lot cleaner. And you won't see this line in 3D because rendering software do not render lines like Sketchup does. Only Sketchup does this. Not any kind of unless you tell it to. There's a few rendering programs that can render lines, but you have to specifically tell it, I want to use the line shader. And at that time, there's other ways you might have to start hiding things and grouping things in different ways to solve any rendering issues you might have with cutting holes in it. But for the most part, that line would never show up, only in SketchUp to help us. So let's save this, save as, and save it as Office Project 0001, enter. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is draw this grass island here. So we will draw on the inside here. And do the arc, 30 sides here. Then we'll type arc and let's do 60 sides, enter. Do this arc here. Enter. And then I want it to be on that yellow axis, so I'll hold shift to draw a straight line. Use select tool, grab that line, use the move tool to move it over, snap it there so that it lines up. So now we've got those two faces we need for that island. We've got these faces, so we've outlined everything we need to. We can draw the rest of these lines using the offset tool to very quickly get the rest of the lines we need. So let's save it just in case it crashes on us. And when I save, you may do this already, but I save a next version, so instead of version 0001, I do 0002, and then so on and so on. So if the file gets corrupt or I make a mistake, I can go back and I can go back to a previous version. And then at the end of of each day, I'll save a file for each day, at least one, so that if I like something I did a few days ago, but I deleted it, I can always go back and copy and paste it back into the project later, because I'll have those files saved. So now we're going to use the offset tool, which is right here, and click on that, and I'm going to click inside of this face and start dragging, and you can see it's offsetting it. Now I want to, while I'm holding down the left mouse button, I can type in how many inches I want it to be. I want it to be 6, so I type in 6, enter, so it'll offset it exactly 6 inches from my original line. That will give us the curb we want. Now we have to do this extra line for the storm drain. So it's a concrete storm drain, and I usually do 14 inches for that. So I'll go back to my offset tool and then start to offset it. And while I'm clicking and dragging and type in 14, enter. So then I get my storm drain. Now I'm going to do the same thing. We'll have to clean up these a little bit later and also clean up these edges later. I'll do the same thing for all the other ones. So use the offset tool, 6, enter, and then 14, enter. And you can see how it's creating the lines we need exactly where we want them to be. There's a line here, but I'm going to ignore that a little bit for now because I'm not sure if that's supposed to be there. That might be a concrete driveway, but I'm not going to make it concrete. I'm just going to ignore these lines here for now because I don't think they're supposed to be there. I think it's a mistake. I could be wrong. It could be all concrete and I'm the one that's wrong, but for now I'm going to do it my way, like Frank Sinatra a little bit, but I can always go back and fix it and just redraw these lines with a pencil tool later and make them concrete if the client says, no, you did it wrong. These all should be concrete driveways. For right now, I'm just going to make it all asphalt. So we'll have to use our pencil tool and clean up these edges. So draw a line to connect in between these edges here. And then we want to keep that one line that we drew to begin with, but we can delete all these other extra lines. We don't need all these lines. We just need the lines that outline the gutter, the storm drain, and then our one helper line. And then also on the edges of the page, this probably continues out, so we just want to draw these lines to go to the edge and not curve back around, and delete the extra lines we don't need. Then I'm going to do that to all of them, the same thing. I will say that I messed up a little bit on this because I drew that line, but the curb should be on the inside, not the outside. So I'm gonna have to fix that. So to fix that, I'm gonna go 6 inches to the inside, because this edge should be the edge of the curb, not the back of the curb. If that makes sense. So I'll use my eraser tool and I can connect these and keep those secure. Those are right, but I want to go back and fix this. I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to delete these lines, and I'm also going to delete all of these lines because those are wrong. So now that I have these lines isolated, I can triple click it and delete them because I'm going to redo those. Same thing for these up here. That looks right. This one should extend over. I don't really know what's over here because I can't see it in plan, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this. Assume that there's more stuff over here for the parking. I always delete extra lines because they get in the way later on. They just make the model much more clean and easy to edit later on, when not if, but when the clients make changes, there's always going to be edits. The cleaner your model is now, you spend a few extra seconds here and there to keep the model clean, it'll save you time and headaches later. So this looks like it's a concrete pad, so where this dumpster is, so I can always just use the pencil tool and extend out this line of concrete here. Hold down, now see how it's that yellowish greenish line. Hold down shift, I'm colorblind by the way, so it's either yellow or green, I'm not sure. And then just connect this line over. So that'll end up being concrete. Okay, so now that I fixed this curb, so this is the edge of the curb, and that's the inside, the back. But I still need to do the storm drain on this side, so I'm going to do a reverse. I'm going to leapfrog the offset over this. Instead of going 6 or 14, I'm going to add the 6 and the 14, so I'm going to go 20, enter. So 20, enter. Do the same thing over here, double click, because I already have the 20 entered from the previous click. In SketchUp, you can double click to redo the last function you did. So now that's correct. So I got the inside of my curve, back of my curb, inside of my curb, and then the outside here, and then the storm drain here, 14 inches storm drain. That's how I want it to look. Even though that isn't in the drawing, I think it looks a lot better. And it may not be how they build it, but if they want me to change, if they don't like it, they can tell me to change it and take it out. I will later, but this is my standard, so I just do that to begin with, the way I think it looks the best, and then I'll change whatever they want me to change later. So now that we've drawn everything, we've got our curb, our 6-inch curb around all the parking, around the building pad, they call that. It's a concrete pad that the building sits on. We have a 6-inch curb here around the grass island, they call this. And then we have a storm drain around everything as well. So I'm going to take it off of X-ray mode by clicking this X-ray button again. I'm going to go into the shadows and just turn up the brightness a little bit on the shadows so it's not so dark. Now I'm going to raise up, or in fact I'm going to lower the road and the parking, the asphalt, down 6 inches. So I'm going to use the push-pull tool. Always got to save it before you start on a new function. So save as a new version, just in case that you start a new tool and it crashes for some reason. So I'm going to push-pull this asphalt down, type in 6, enter, so that'll go down 6 inches. Now I can double-click, and that will repeat the last function. So now I brought my asphalt down, but I also want to bring my storm drain down 6 inches. So I'll double click on the storm drain as well. And that will bring that down 6 inches. And that will just leave the curb exactly where I want it to be. Do that to all the storm drains. Just check. So lower this concrete down 6 inches, lower that storm drain. I think that's all of it now. So now I just need to use the eraser tool and delete these extra edges on the edges of the ends of the road. Those shouldn't be there. That was created by the push-pull tool, but it's extra. Gotta get rid of the extra stuff. We don't want any extra lines or faces getting in our way later on. Actually, the shadows are turned on. I'm going to turn them off for now. So this is the shadow tab. So to get that to show up, if you want, you can go to View Toolbars and then click on Shadows to get this to show up. You can either adjust your shadows there or bring out the window and then the tray here, show your tray and add the shadows into your tray over here. So now what we want to do is start creating some materials. Actually, no, not yet. There's a sidewalk right here. We want to draw the sidewalk first. So I'm going to go back into X-ray mode and I'm going to draw the sidewalk. I'll just hold down shift and draw all the way across. Do the same thing for the other side of the sidewalk. Actually, no, delete that. So I'll start here, go to there, and then block it onto that yellow line, hold down shift, draw all the way across. So I got a nice straight sidewalk. And you can see if I turn off X-ray mode, it created these extra faces. So I just used the eraser tool to erase those. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Erase that extra sidewalk. And for this, I'm not going to actually draw a sidewalk. I'm just going to, later on, I'll put some road markings, some score markings of white lines across here, like the ones that the Beatles walked across in the UK when on the cover of their famous album picture. That's what I'm going to put there because I think that looks better than, and that's more realistic than putting concrete there. Because when you pour asphalt, usually you just pour it through the whole thing and then you paint the stripes. It's more economical, it's cleaner. Sometimes they'll use concrete, but I think that's kind of outdated in my opinion. I don't think people do it that much anymore. There are a couple extra lines, it's hard to see them, especially when you're not in X-ray mode, but these are extra lines. And like I said, always delete the extra lines. So now we're ready to start making materials and adding materials to our scene. So for all the curbs and storm drains, we're going to make those concrete. Oh, I forgot. There's another sidewalk over on this side. Okay. Hold on. Let's draw the sidewalk first. Okay, here we go. Okay, now for the third time's a charm, remember. We should be ready to add materials. So, I'm going to start by just selecting this area here, and I'll go to my materials tab, and in the Windows default tray, I add materials. That's how I get that to show up over here. And I'm just going to add any arbitrary color to it, just to create a new material, and then I'll go into edit and I'll click use texture image. I'll find in my textures folder in my hard drive, my external hard drive with my resources on here, go to concrete, and I kind of had my latest and greatest concrete, and I think I use a 40 feet scale to kind of spread out the texture a little bit. Now on this area here and this area here should be grass, not concrete. So I'm going to repeat that same process but for grass instead. So put an arbitrary color just to create a new material, and then go to find a grass texture, and there we have grass. So I'm going to do the same thing for everything else, except I'm not going to put any materials over this parking area here or this pad here because I need to see those lines so I can create the parking lines and then draw the building footprint. But if it's just an open area and I know it's going to be grass and concrete and there's no other things I need to draw, I can just add the material for now. And it looks pretty too. I like things that look pretty because it makes me feel like we're making progress and we're moving towards the direction of making a good looking rendering. So this whole area out here, I mean, I can see there's something here. I don't want to lose this. I can tell this is probably another parking lot for a building over here. So before I cover that up with grass, I'm going to draw that just so that I don't lose it, because I do want it to be as accurate as possible, and maybe later on I could go into Google Earth and I can find what buildings are surrounding this building in real life and find out what road this is and, you know, actually, you know, get the surrounding context, a little very basic geometry so that the renderings look a little more realistic and accurate to what they would be in real life. But I don't want to lose this information, so I'm going to just do what we did before, like use the offset tool, 6, then do 14 for the storm drain. Just really quickly draw out this piece of the parking lot. This some kind of existing parking lot over here, because the architect that drew these plans obviously thought it was important to keep it in, so I'm gonna agree and just say it's important to keep it in our rendering as well. I don't want to. Sometimes I change things just a little bit if I think they look better, but this is just basic information that's there in real life, supposedly, because otherwise why would they just throw it in this random parking lot back here if it's not really there in real life? Okay, push-pull tool, 6 inches, enter, 6, enter. Delete extra, oops, 6. So now let's give this a concrete texture, and then for this part will be asphalt. So let's go back to our color. So instead of in model here, I can go to colors and just do another arbitrary color, edit, and then find an asphalt texture, and that will be the asphalt here. Make it a little bit lighter. That looks pretty good for now. Maybe a little darker looks good. Okay. So now I could go ahead and fill in the rest of this with grass and concrete. So I'm going to select all of this and then hold down Control Shift and then drag to deselect a few of these spots, like this grass here. And now I'm going to make all of that concrete. So just go to the Home button in my Materials tab, click on the concrete. First make everything concrete, then I can add the grass into these certain areas that I know are grass. There, that's looking good. Now, I don't want to, these two faces will end up being asphalt, but right now I need to see these lines for now, so I'm not going to add the asphalt on there yet. Later. A little bit later, we'll do that. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to just trace the outline of this building so that we can fill the rest of this in with concrete. But first we're going to save it because, you know, things crash, computers overheat, files get corrupted all the time, and we don't want to lose a lot of work. We can lose a little bit. We don't want to lose like hours worth of work. That would make us cry. It'd make me cry at least. So I'll go back into X-ray mode so that we can see the lines we're drawing easier and just trace the outline of this building. Actually, that's an overhang of a roof, so this is actually the outline, because that's a dotted line. Dotted line means it's somewhere higher, like a roof plane somewhere, that we'll see later when we bring in the elevations for the building. So this, I want to match the width of this with the width of this over here. So I'll put on that red line, hold down shift, and then hover over here to snap it to that same width. Now I can have the yellow, hold down shift, snap it here, and then I don't want to draw a tiny little line, so I'm going to erase this line and redraw it from that corner all the way to this corner. So now we have the outline of our building perfectly drawn and preserved. I also want to preserve this dotted line for now because I don't want to lose that. So I'll just draw a line across just to preserve it. Delete the extra line there. Now I can add in the concrete texture without covering over our building footprint. And really, if I want to get down to the nitty gritty, I should draw all these extra lines here, across here. Now I'll offset this wall. It looks like about 8 inches, so I'll type 8, enter. So 8 inches is the size of a block wall, which is, most office buildings are built using blocks. So blocks are 8 inches by 16 inches. So the walls are all 8 inches thick. Do the same thing here. Offset 8 inches and then finish drawing the rest of it there. Oh, I didn't offset this by 8 inches. Okay, so that will be so now we have the thickness of our walls drawn, and that's good for modeling a building, because once you have the thickness and then you draw the walls going up, then you can actually, and you cut out the windows and doors, you can actually go inside the building, and if you need to do interior renderings, it's all ready to go. You just got to add textures and furniture, and you're ready to render the inside, and lights, obviously, to light the inside if you want it to look nicer than just the sunlight coming in. I can see there's some lights, parking lights out here too. We'll have to make sure we add those in before we cover up the texture. We need to add in this drive-through with this little roof here. Make sure we get all the information set before we cover up the texture. But now that we've drawn all these lines, we can just get rid of the texture and just use the default white texture to just fill in all these walls with white. Just default. There's no reason to have, we've converted the PDF drawing into a real 3D drawing, so in Sketchup, so we no longer need those. If we did need to do, we can use the eyedropper and bring it back if we needed to do the interior walls here, but for right now we're not doing interior renderings as far as I know. We're just doing the exterior renderings for this project, so let's hold off on that. Now I'll go out of X-ray mode and I'm gonna save it. And there's something I like to do, because these edges are so sharp. In real life, it would be, this edge here would be smooth. So what you can do is you can go to Window in your tray, your default tray. You can bring in Soften Edges, and that brings up this window here. So if I could click on this edge, click on Soften, and then turn this up past 100 degrees, and because this is a 90-degree angle, so if I go to 80, it'll be hard because that's 90 degrees. If I go past 90, it will soften anything past 90 degrees. So the trick is, like, I could select the whole model and then click on this, but then I lose all the edges I want to be sharp. So I just want this edge to be soft, so there's a trick to do that. Click on the eraser tool, but instead of just erasing the lines, undo that. While you have the eraser tool selected, hold down Control, and you get this little white smooth curve picture that pops up. It's kind of really small, hard to see, but now that I'm holding Control and doing the eraser, I can smooth these curves, just the ones that I click the eraser tool on. But I have to be holding Control or else it'll get rid of the line, so we don't want that. So I'm just smoothing, and this is a lot easier than trying to select one line at a time, because I can just go in quickly, swipe by. So eraser tool, hold down Control, swipe it, and then it smooths it. Not Shift, because if you hold down Shift while you're erasing, it hides the line, but it still has a sharp lighting technique. So if I undo that and I hold down Control, there we go. And I don't know which buttons it is on a Mac. I'm sorry. If you're using a Mac, you'll have to figure out which button does the smooth, and just look for the smooth lighting and which one makes it sharp and which one makes it smooth. You'll have to I have a Mac, but I don't use it that much, so I don't want to take the time to go look right now. You'll have to do some detective work and figure out which buttons it is on a Mac. And I usually leave, if there's a really big crease, I'll leave that line alone, and I'll just do, it just kind of helps define the inner spaces there. And I'll go around the whole model and soften all of these edges. I think it looks nicer. It looks more realistic anyway. And I remembered something, that there's a dumpster here and a fence with a gate. So I'm going to go to my materials tab, use the eyedropper, bring back that, because I don't want to lose that. So for now I'm going to leave it, because I need to see that, to model the dumpster, the fence. I'll probably copy and paste that stuff from a different project. And if you're doing this training as a training video, that I will include the dumpster and the fence in the source files that you can download. So because this tutorial is not about modeling dumpsters, it's about modeling the site and the building. It's not about modeling the pieces themselves. That could be a different tutorial. I don't want to take up everybody's time. To use up all your time doing that when that's not what this is about right now. Because you can always download a dumpster from the 3D warehouse or something for free, and then modify it to the right size and color and shape that you want. And same thing with the parking light. You don't always have to model those things from scratch, like one at a time. So the only thing left to do with this site, other than copying the dumpsters and the fence there and the lights here, so we got to make all these score lines, these parking lines, and some of these arrows, and this right here. So this is going to be a drive-through shelter, like that dotted line indicates a roof. So in the same way that this is going to be a hole in our model, in our asphalt, and that's going to cause problems, probably going to cause problems. Doesn't always, but a lot of times it does in the rendering process, just like this island here. So the same way we did with that, I'm going to draw a line straight through it so that it doesn't cause problems for us later on. Then I'm going to draw the outline of this covered dotted line roof so that we remember where that roof needs to go. And then I can also go into X-ray and just draw this concrete island. Use the arc tool. I have 30 faces, that's good enough. Just draw that there. And then use the push-pull tool. Go up 6 inches, enter. Actually, before I do that, I want to make that storm drain, even though it may not be there in real life. I just think it looks better. I don't know. They may do it. It depends on who does the construction of the site. Whether they put that there or not. I think it worked. It lasts longer. It's easier to maintain. Looks nicer, in my opinion, anyway. If you do add the storm drain around everything, I just think it looks better and it doesn't deteriorate as fast. Because then you have the asphalt. You have something to push the asphalt up to, instead of pushing the asphalt up to here, and then it could erode easier. It's harder to fix. Then we have these posts here. We want to make sure we maintain. So let's just create those posts really quick in 3D so that we have them. Looks like an 8-inch post. So we'll just draw an 8-inch post and then push pull it. And we'll just grab that face and hold down Control and move a copy up in the air. And then I want to give that material just the regular default material. And then use push-pull to make it into a post. Triple click, right click, make component. And the reason we want to make it a component because we're going to copy it so that we'll hold down Control, move a copy over here, so that if we edit one, it will edit all the copies of this component, just like an instance in other software. Now I've got this whole thing modeled. I can turn this into concrete without losing it. And then go ahead and pull this curve back 6 inches. Soften it by holding Control with the eraser tool. And then that concrete island is done. Here's another dumpster. Wow, there's a lot of dumpsters around here. I don't know. A little bit too many, in my opinion. Why do you need so many dumpsters? I don't know. That's what they want. Maybe they'll change it later, maybe not. But 3 dumpsters for this small of a building doesn't make sense to me. But I'm not the designer, I'm not the architect. So let's grab some symbols. I already have symbols made, and I'll provide those in the downloadable files, the source files for this project to do the training. So let me save this. So if I go into my resources, I can find a file with those already modeled. So site models, and then this one has a lot of parking lines right here. You can find most of those models on the 3D warehouse. I uploaded them for anybody to use for free. So if there's any items that you like that I've made that I think would be helpful and you can't find them in the downloadable files, that you should be able to find them on the 3D warehouse. So I'll grab one of these handicap symbols, cut and paste it, or copy paste, either way, into our new project. I kind of like that symbol. That's pretty cool, but I've already got this one made. It looks like this person is racing, like they're going as fast as they possibly can, which I like that. I don't want to take the time to model it right now. I might do it. It might be a fun thing for somebody, one of you guys to do. Just draw this and it turned into a component for future projects. And now, see how it's flickering? That's because it's copied on the same plane as the parking asphalt. So I'm just gonna use the move tool, lift it up, and I'm gonna lift it up a 1/4 inch. I'm gonna type 0.25, enter. That will bring it up a 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 of an inch up above the asphalt. So not enough to make a strong shadow that it's just giving the illusion that it's painted on there, but I don't actually want to go through the whole process to paint it on because it takes a lot of time to use a decal, which is it's more accurate to use a decal, but when you're doing like 10 projects a week, you don't have time to do that many decals. So I found a little workaround. I just slap it on there and then raise it up a little bit above, a 1/4 inch. If you're really far away, you might have to raise up a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, or else it might still flicker when the camera's very far away, like 100 feet away or more. So now we need to put in some parking stripes. We use the rotate tool, rotate it 90 degrees, move it over to the right spot there. Could scale it, use the scale tool, and scale it to where it's supposed to be. And then do the same thing, move that up, 0.25, enter. Or period 25, enter. And then hold down control and move a copy over. And just keep doing that until you have them all on there. It looks like it's 10 feet away, so you could go 10 feet, 10 apostrophe enter, and then type in 4x enter, and that will copy 4 of them 10 feet apart. That's a faster way of doing it. Or another way to do it is you hold on control, copy over to the edge here, and then type in divided slash /4 enter. So either way does the same thing. You can go 40 feet and then /4 enter, and that fills in 4 spaces in between. Or copy 10 feet over and then do 4x enter, and that will copy 4 more at 10 feet apart. So we'll take these and copy them over here and scale it up a little bit. Then I can snap on the move tool here, hold down control, and then move them exactly the same apart from there. Oh, and then these lines are actually hidden to show those dotted lines, I go to View, Hidden Geometry, and then I can see the lines that are hidden, they look like dotted lines. Or I can, on my keyboard, I hit the H key and I can see hidden. But if you don't have that shortcut, you can go to View, Hidden Geometry, and then when you're done and you don't want to see those dotted lines anymore, go to View, Hidden Geometry to hide the hidden lines. But for now, I want to see them so I can easily model this parking lot. So I can select all these and copy them over here. Hold down the move tool, click, hold down Control, hold down Shift to move them straight over. And then that looks good. I have to add one more here. Move tool. Hold down Control to copy it. So now I gotta move these lines, copy some lines over here. So I'm gonna select these, but I don't want to select the grass. So I'm gonna triple click this, right click, say Make Group. So I made that whole site into a group. So now I can select these lines without selecting the grass. Hold down Control, move them over here, copy, and then move this over, and then hold down Control, move, select. I'm using hotkeys for some of these, so you might not see me always click on the tool, but you can set up your own hotkeys if you want. For move, rotate, scale, the select, move, rotate, scale, it's a good idea. A lot of software uses Q, W, E, R. So Q would be move, W would be, Q would be select, W would be move, E is rotate, and R on the keyboard is scale, so that they're all right by where your fingers are resting on the keyboard. So you can switch very quickly between select, move, rotate, scale, really quickly. And that's always seemed to help me out a lot. And so a lot of software does it, like Maya, Unreal, the professional software, they do that by default. Sketchup has never done that by default. I'm not sure why. Maybe they'll get their act together, but I would change it. I just go into Window, Preferences, Shortcuts, and then you just find Move, Rotate, Scale, select, and then type in the key you want it to be for the shortcut hotkey. That's that easy. Okay, so we've got to add some lines over here. Let's copy, move this, rotate, move, rotate, scale, move, hold on Control to here, /11, enter, and then boom. It's easy. It's a good guess, huh? I didn't even count them. It just worked. Oh, serendipity. Okay, we've got all of our parking lines modeled, so let's save this. So I have a model for these stripes here already made. I can just grab that. It's not exact, it doesn't look exactly like this, but it's, yeah, maybe I'll just go ahead and model this because it's different enough. I don't want it to be so different. So to model this, what I'm going to do is just start by drawing the outline first. I'm going to draw all the lines actually. So all the lines you see here, I'll draw them. Turn on X-ray mode. So hold down Control, move to copy that line over, and then I wish that was in one line. I should start over. I want to start with a long line in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to copy that line over and then read copy, 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 and do the same thing this way. Copy, copy. Delete the extra. It's not exact, but this is just a parking painted line. It's not gonna, the building isn't gonna fall down if the parking line paint isn't exactly on. So I should be a little bit more careful, and then I'm gonna type in offset 3, enter. I'm gonna offset all these by 3 inches. Now that gives me 6-inch stripes in here, which is what I want, but on the outside edge it's only 3 inches, so I'm going to offset it another 3 for the outside edge, and then I'll have to redraw. Oh, that didn't work, but I'll just use a pencil tool and reconnect all of these lines, and then I'll delete the extra ones. I'll show you in a minute here. This is how I've tried it a lot of different ways. There is a lot of different ways to do this, but overall, I think this is the fastest and easiest way to do it that I've found. If you find a faster and easier way to get the exact same result, then you should be teaching this class, not me. And I will learn from you. Just tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'll admit it. But now we've got, the lines are perfectly modeled, they match up. These lines will be extra that we got to get rid of. That line, oh no, not that line, this one. So we have to erase the extra line so that there's 6 inches around the outside, and then each line is also 6 inches wide. I think I did this right. So that way we only have to draw the actual lines from the plan, and then we use the offset tool to get the rest of our lines we need quickly. Now, I did say that when you cut holes in a model, like we haven't deleted those yet, but still those are representing holes in a flat model, which is always, in my opinion, not always, but a lot of times will cause problems. So I'm just going to draw a line, a fake line, just like straight through all of these holes. Now I'm going to triple click this, right click, make component, and then I'm going to double click to go inside of it. Now I want to hide the rest of the model so I can work on this component. To do that, you go to View, Component, Edit, Hide Rest of Model, but I have a hotkey for it. And now I can delete, I'm going to delete this extra stuff we don't need. And what this did is, by drawing that helper line in between, it's not a fake line, it's a helper line. It doesn't show up in the renderings, but it helps us to have 2 faces instead of 1 face with a bunch of holes in it. That just ends up causing problems later. So there's 2 things more we have to do to this model. We have to give it the proper texture, and then we have to hide all these lines. So let's select the whole thing, go out of X-ray mode. We'll find the texture that was on these other parking stripes, that white fuzzy texture, and we'll add that. But now we want to hide all these lines. So there's 2 ways to do it. We could use the eraser tool, hold down Shift, and that will hide the lines. If we go to View, Hide Hidden Geometry, we can do it that way. But the easier way, well, it's kind of easier, we got to be careful, but you can click on here in the styles, just where it only shows you the lines, and then you could select all the lines by holding control. But you want to make sure you don't select the faces. So sometimes when you do this, it does select the faces as well. So you just got to make sure you don't hide the faces. You only hide the lines. So you can select all of them, right click on the line and say hide. See, I didn't get that. I missed that one right there. Right click, hide. Go back to textured mode. So we have the texture now, but you can't see it because it's flickering because we have to raise it up 1/4 of an inch. Up 0.25, enter. So now, if we were to right click, explode this, and then add that asphalt texture, you can see now we have our painted stripes that are still there. And that's how it's going to look in the final rendering. But we still need to add a few more stripes, so we're not going to do that yet. And some arrows and stuff. Okay, let's save that. That's a lot of work. Okay. So now we need to copy this. I'm going to go to View, Hidden Geometry to see the outline, the dotted outlines. We need to copy this over to here and here. So use the Move tool, hold on Control, copy that over. Then also copy it over here. And scale it to the right size. The lines don't line up perfectly, but I think that's okay. For a parking stripe, I don't think it has to be perfect. Some may argue and say that I'm wrong, but I'm willing to be wrong once in a while. So now we need to find a model that has some arrows. I think I saw a model that had some arrows right here, which I'll include so you don't have to model unless you want to. Unless you enjoy modeling arrows and that's your favorite thing to do. You just love modeling arrows. I won't stop you. Let's raise that up 1/4 of an inch, 0.25, enter, rotate it, hold down Control, move, copy, and then copy this arrow around a little bit. And these arrows may or may not be painted on in real life. Sometimes they paint a couple arrows here and there, but usually they don't paint this many arrows. It's more just to show people that are looking at the plan the direction of the traffic. Sometimes they do actually paint these on in real life. I don't know. It just depends. I think it kind of adds a little bit of flair to the rendering, but sometimes you get so many arrows it just overpowers, and I start deleting some of them because it's just too many arrows. I don't know why that arrow is curved. It doesn't really make sense why it's... I guess because it's telling you don't want to go straight because you'll be going into this drive the wrong way. That makes sense. So I can copy in a curved arrow right here. It's a little bit strange, but I guess it kind of makes sense a little bit. It's fine. It's all good. It's all fine. We're good. Everything is awesome. Okay. The only thing left for the parking, besides these that we missed over here, that I missed, is these triangle lines here. So to do that, let's draw the triangle. I'm going triple click. Actually, I'm gonna select this whole thing, control move it up into the air a little bit, get it out of there, get it off the parking lot, because I forgot to turn this back into a group. Triple click this whole site, right click, make group, so that it's not, everything I draw doesn't stick to it. I don't want things to stick to it. I want it to be clean, just the way it is, like that. So I'm going to actually extend this, use the pencil tool and extend this line out. Now you might say, well, it's going to cover over this area, which this gutter, the storm drain, which we don't want to happen, but I have a trick for that. I'm going to teach you a little trick. This is going to be cool. I think you'll like it. So that when we have this down here, like that, I can make that get covered over the concrete. Let's triple click this, make it into a component, and then double click, view component at a height rested model. Now we can start to just, let's give this a default material, and then just copy these lines a few times. I'm redrawing these lines because, so now, like, how do you get that to be the same? So you hover over that until you get the little words to pop up, and then when you do this and it turns purple or pinkish, whatever, hold down shift to lock it, and then it'll be the same angle as the rest of the lines. So I would like these lines to be one piece, not several different pieces. It keeps the model a lot cleaner. So now I'll do the same thing. I'll offset this by 3 inches. Oops, messed that one up. 3, and then I'll do it again. Ooh, I won't do that one because it's too tiny. Can't even see it. Now I have to connect these ones together. Actually, I could just draw one straight line all the way through, like that. And then start to draw it on that yellowish greenish line, hold down shift, and then hover over this line to get it to be the exact right length. Then eraser everything we don't need. I'll cheat that a little bit, fake it till you make it. We'll probably cheat this one too, because I don't like that tiny little triangle there. I'm just going to get rid of it. And then we'll draw our helper line, score through all the middle of these holes, then use the select tool and just select the parts we don't want and delete them. Hit the delete key on the keyboard. So you've got 2 faces that looks like one nice shape with the holes in it properly. Give it the proper texture, and then hide all these lines. Not the faces, just the lines. View, hidden geometry, go back to shaded, textured mode, sorry. Missed a line there, hide that line. Then do view, component edit, hide rest of model to bring back the model. So let's turn back on hidden geometry. So let's move this down all the way, then move it up 1/4 of an inch. Now you can see how this is cut. These little painted lines are covering over the storm drain, and I don't want that to happen. So there's a little trick. So this is hovering 1/4 of an inch above the asphalt. So I'm gonna use the push-pull tool, and I'll double click so I'm inside this site group, and I will push-pull this storm drain up 0.5 inches. So it's a 1/2 inch. So there's a 1/4 of an inch between the asphalt and the paint, and then another 1/4 inch between the paint and the storm drain. So it's kind of hidden. It's still there, but it's hidden inside of it, and we don't have to worry about tracing around really carefully. And it's kind of a quick and dirty way to do it. But for some, like I said, with paint lines, I'm not too worried about them being perfect, like 100% perfect. As long as it's about 80 to 90% perfect, that's fine. So let's copy this over, and we have to mirror it. So you may know this if you use Sketchup a lot, or somewhat even moderate amount, how to mirror things in Sketchup. So let's turn on hidden geometry. So this is a component, and I don't want to mirror a component because that can get funky. It can cause artifacts in the renderings software. So when I'm mirroring a component, first I explode it, then I scale, and then you start to scale it in this side direction and type -1 enter, and that will, so -1 enter, and that will scale it in the opposite direction, which will mirror it. Then I can right click it and say make component. So this is a different component than this one because it's facing the opposite direction, which is what I want. I want it to be like that. I don't want to mirror components because it usually causes problems in the rendering software, in my experience. So lift it up 0.25 enter, push pull this storm drain, double click, push pull that up 0.5, and there we go. The lines are going the wrong direction, but I think that's okay. That's just how they drew it, and they may I don't think anybody's gonna notice it, and if they do, it'll probably be an architect or an engineer that notices it and like, hey, these lines are going a different direction, and then we'll fix it. But I don't think it's that important right now, so I think it's good enough. But who am I? I'm not an architect or an engineer. I'm just an artist, so 3D artist. But you can always change it later. So, oh, I should say what I just did there. So I was just kind of rambling on. So I select both of these, use the rotate tool, and then click in the middle and start to rotate it. Hold down Control to rotate a copy and rotate it 180 degrees. So I copied these two components and rotated them over so that they're kind of mirrored to this side, and then just move them into the right place. And that's not connecting, but we can fix that in a minute. We'll fix that. And then let's move this one over into the right place. So what we want to do is make this bigger so that it extends out. So first, what we gotta do, we gotta push pull this up 0.5, 1/2 of an inch, 0.5 inches to hide it. And then let's go into this and let's use the pencil tool and then hover over, get that words to come up, hold down shift, and we can extend this line out enough that it goes underneath there. Do the same thing for this line. That way we can kind of extend the size and reach of this object. And then we'll also extend our helper line over. And then now that we've done that, we're going to have to copy another cutout because it's bigger now. I think that's enough. I think, oh, we'll need to copy this, the other side of that face over like this so that we can cut this out. So we're basically just extending and making our object bigger so that it covers this area right here. And it won't hurt this over here because it's not coming out the edge, it's hidden still. So even though this is a copy of that, it's still okay. This one is actually smaller, so I can actually scale this down. So now when I fix that one, it will still be hidden as well underneath there, that storm drain gutter. Yeah. This one sticks out, so I'm gonna just fake it till I make it over a little bit. And then just fake this one over a little bit. Hopefully nobody will notice. Oh my goodness, we cheated. We cheated. They're cheaters. They ruined everything. I'm sure there's more ways to do this that are easier and better, but so far I'm just showing you the way that I think is the easiest. Like I said, if you come up with a better, easier, faster way to do things, go ahead and show me. And then I'll make you the teacher. And then you can teach the rest of us. I'm good with that. Prove to me that you can do it faster and easier and get the same or better results. So now, if I turn on View Hidden Geometry, we've modeled all of the parking lines, all of the arrows. We've cut out and preserved the different dumpsters and things that we still need to hold on to. I don't care about this because I can see the sidewalk where it connects there. So now we can add our asphalt texture to this without losing any information that we needed, because we've got all of our information already. And now it starts to look really cool. Yeah. Turn off hidden geometry. Oh yeah, that looks really slick. And then I did hide these big street lights here, but I can remember that there's a street light here and a street light here. If you don't believe me, I'll show you just to make sure I didn't forget. Yep, street light here, street light here. I can remember that. My memory is not good, but I think I can remember those two lights. We'll see. By the end of the training video, if I haven't added those lights, you can yell at me later. Okay. Let's just add this. This is going to be concrete, because that's just that dotted line we're preserving. So Everything looks good to me. I don't see any errors right now. So, oh, we didn't soften these edges here on the grass island. The parking island, whatever you want to call it. Okay, okay, yeah, I like it. So the only thing we need to add for as far as paint is those paint spots here. So let's save it. Save our work there as an extra version. So I usually make these the same width as the sidewalk, and then I make them 18 inches wide, or deep, whatever you want to call it. So draw it about the same as the sidewalk, and then type in 1818, enter, and then that will be our paint spot. Lift that up, 0.25, enter, give that the white speckly material, right click, make component, then I'm going to copy, move, hold down control, move, so a couple copies, select all the copies, right click, make that into a component, then double click so I'm inside that component. Now I can delete this middle one, and then control move a few more copies, type in 6, enter, actually should be 5. There, now we've got all my spots. So I'm going to double click until I'm inside here, and then I can use the eraser tool, hold down shift to hide these lines, or I could just select them and then right click and say hide. So now I've got this component I want to copy, hold down control move and copy this over here so that the Beatles can walk across here while they're singing their song. It's not quite lined up perfectly, but are we going to do it perfect? We're going to be close. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be close. Okay, last thing for this part of the tutorial is we're going to add the street lights. Because I told you if I don't add them, you can yell at me. So I may change them later, but for now, let's save it and let's put something there for now. Even if I put a street light there. See, this project has a lot of markings, road markings, that you can copy and paste into other ones, and this should be on the 3D warehouse. Go ahead and go to the 3D warehouse and download this from my profile, and you can copy and paste all of these components you can use in your projects for free. Okay, let's look and see if we have some street lights. So if I go to models and then I go to lights, I can see, okay, these ones are on the 3D warehouse. I think I might use this one for now as a placeholder, and if I don't like it, I can always change it later. I like this one too. It's hard to decide. That's why I'm reserving the right to change it later in the next tutorial. But for now, let's use this one. And in our project, there's only 2 lights, not 3, so we're going to delete one, and then we'll have to rotate. Hold down shift, rotate, so that they're pointing up and down, like that. And then we'll select this whole thing, right click, make component, cut and paste into our project. Ooh, too big, that's big. Let's scale that down about 0.5. That's probably too small now, but I'm guessing I would say, Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Center it here. Make sure it's sitting on the ground. There we go. I would say probably want it to be at least 20 feet in the air. So I'm gonna draw a line, type in 20 apostrophe enter. Oh, that's like 28 feet in the air. I think, I don't know, maybe 30 feet. Maybe 30 feet. Let's see what 30 feet looks like. Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger. I think that's good. And then let's control move it over, copy over here. So now our site is completely done. That concludes part 1 of this office tutorial. We've drawn the site, the parking lot, the road, the grass, the building pad, the building outline, parking lights, parking stripes. And in the next part of the tutorial, we are going to model the building using the building elevations, and then we'll bring in we'll copy and paste in some dumpsters and some fences, some doors to go around these dumpster areas, and then we'll have the building modeled, and that should be it. So I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.